Well, no. The whole election is about inflation. People are hopping mad about the size of the inflation at the moment. Rice is up 100.2% year on year. Japan has just had its biggest wage hike since 1991, and the whole of that has been washed away by the rise in inflation. And we've got this crazy situation where, on the one side, the government is arguing about what it's going to do to push down inflation. So it's been trying to manipulate the markets by giving some price breaks on a number of things. But also, it's the opposition is saying, no, what we've got to do is cut consumption tax. And the government says, well, we can't do that, but we'll hand some money out to poor people. Hang on a sec, our systems don't tell us who the poor people are. So let's give 20,000 yen to everybody, which is, a dinner for two, candlelit without wine, which is fine. But that, I think, leaves us in a position where wages aren't catching up with prices. And the argument to say that this is the fault of not enough wage increases, no. Japan's had a 5.25% wage increase. The problem is that they can't control the price. And so on the one side, the government's trying to push it down. On the other side, the BOJ says, we're not sure it's high enough yet. And I think the view of most people is, for God's sake, can we have a conclave? Just lock the lot of them in one room and tell them to send up white smoke when they've worked something out. But this is unbearable. So you can see the numbers. Every time they run a poll on the politics, and Ishiba's extremely unpopular in that, and LDP is not doing it all well. Every time they run that, they say, what do you most want out of the Prime Minister? And the answer is 49% of people saying, get the inflation worked out. That's twice as much as talks about it's the economy stupid.
Yeah, exactly. During these elections, the populist agenda has come to the fore, and immigration is now this hot button issue, and this fringe right-wing party has really banked on that. And one of the biggest searches on social media now is immigration, not even terrorists. But how do you see this playing? Over the longer term, it always comes down, Nicholas, to rice and cars. Japan is so vulnerable in all these two fronts. Doesn't it need something that it can counterpunch with whenever it comes up against these issues?
Well, I think the media's been trying to get excited about a tiny party, Sanseto, that's got a couple of people in Parliament, and by Monday morning we'll have forgotten about them. Look, rice, you can make a big fuss about it. In the CPI basket is in total 0.62%. It is certainly a hot button issue for housewives. The Americans are saying, you've got a shortage, you should take our American rice. But, of course, I went and read through their trade impediments report, and what it says is, when Japan does import American rice, it mostly uses it for animal feed. And we tried some in our family, and the wife absolutely won't touch the stuff. Finished the bag and tried all sorts of things. You'll find your newspapers full of stories saying, here are things you can mix in the American rice that'll take away the taste. So that really isn't an issue. You know perfectly well that rice is not going to move the needle on Japan's trade surplus with the US. It's just something to argue about. Now, when it comes to autos, well, of course, Japan, 80%, smack on 80% of its trade surplus with the US is autos. Japan's had zero import tariffs on autos since 1978 at US insistence. US has got tariffs on it, and now they're thinking of raising them up to 25% against Japan. So the point isn't we buy their cars, they don't buy ours. The point is, not only don't Japanese people want to buy US cars, US people don't want to buy US cars either. And certainly they don't fit the US markets. They're too wide for the roads, they won't fit in parking spots, they've got the wheel on the wrong side and so on.
Yeah, indeed. That's been the case for a while, right, Nick? Listen, let's get to the here and now, rather focus on Sunday, the elections and the outcome and what the market is priced for or not. I want to play you a soundbite from Rob Subaraman over at Nomura. Let's take a listen to this, and then we'll continue talking.
The markets are already moved to an extent and are pricing that an outcome of the leading coalition, LDP, losing a majority by a small margin. I think that's largely priced. So the risks are the two sides are really that either they lose by a very large margin, and then the opposition parties are a lot more powerful and will come into the coalition, or they actually surprise and actually keep a majority. That would be the biggest surprise, I think, and could cause the long end JGB yields to rally quite a bit.
Nick, you heard that. Are you agree that the market is already priced for a loss, but a marginal one? But, if it ends up being a real drubbing, or if, Ishiba gets the boot, or the other side, if he manages to actually hold on to his majority by some miracle, that's when we're going to see some pretty violent reaction.
Yeah, I mean, for the 40 years I've been in Japan, usually politics doesn't really move the needle for the market. So that's the first thing to say. Unless you've got someone very successful like Abe or Koizumi, the chances are that the LDP is going to just come short of the number it needs to have a majority in the upper house. The upper house is, after all, effectively the rubber stamp for the lower house, and it's already lost the lower house. So remember, on the 27th of October, Ishiba called an election that he didn't need to call, and then he lost it. So I think the problem is that support for the LDP is sliding. It's sliding as much as anything. I mean, its support started to fall when Abe stepped down. But then in came Ishiba, and between Ishiba and Kishida, they've been trying to knife the Abe faction, the Seiwaken. And so there's less and less of what the voter wanted in the LDP. Whichever way things go on Sunday, and certainly the story in my household and many others is really don't want to vote for the LDP, but there is nothing else. The important thing there is that the Constitutional Democrats and DPP and so on, they all hate each other so much, even more than they hate the LDP. And I think the result is that they're not going to get their act together, and that is what's going to save the LDP from an even greater drubbing. But I think the conversation Monday morning is that we've got to stab Ishiba on the way to the forum, that really the guy is toast and we're going to look for somebody else. And the whole political battle that's been going on is Kishida trying to set things up so that he's brought back in as Prime Minister. I don't think that's going to happen, but probably Ishiba is out, and almost anyone else would be better.
Yeah, Nick, you're an old Japan hand, 40 years there, right? And let's keep the charts up so we can look at it and talk about it. The Japanese 10, 155. A couple of days ago, we were up at 159. Those are levels we haven't seen since, I think, 2008. That's about 17 years ago, right? Let's not even talk about the long end record numbers, whether it's 30 or even 40-year paper. My question to you is, regardless of whether Ishiba gets the boot or manages by some miracle to hang on to power and his majority, is it almost a foregone conclusion that with Japan's economy in the shape it's in, overshadowed by tariffs, U.S. tariffs, long yields have nowhere to go but higher? And if so, that doesn't sound like good news for stocks, does it?
Japanese yields are very, very low indeed, and so US 10-year is about 290 basis points higher than Japan. Yeah, I mean, Japan had been on life support. The BOJ's in the process of letting yields drift upwards. And I think the market's prepared for that. Is that going to kill the stock market? Well, I do think it's important to remember that corporates are awash with cash, and so would quite like interest rates to be higher. Households are awash with cash, and would like yields to be higher. And the only one that would like yields to stay down is the government. But keeping government short of money is probably a good way to go as far as I'm concerned. But the government's hardly about to go bust. I mean, after all, the BOJ owns half the bond market, and net debt is about half of gross debt, and most people don't seem to talk about that. They tend to take the story from the Ministry of Finance and run around like headless chickens. But the truth is, everything that Japan earns on its assets gets a higher yield than what it pays on its debt, with the result that net interest paid is very often negative. So I don't see problems coming very soon. And then for the JTB market, the foreigner owns about 6-7%, which is utterly different from most other markets. So it's not under strain from flighty foreigners.